Okay, my friends, I have Fran on with me. Fran, hello. He's a fabulous guy, and he's pushing my research. And we talk about a lot of things. He's very, very easy to talk to, and he understands, and he's interested, which is, there's so few people that are. And when I say so few people, I've been doing this for a very long time, and 15 years really full blast. And I have contacted literally every scientific area, all the national labs, CERN, Fermilab, all the top universities, all the top researchers, and I've shown my evidence to them, not just some nonsense. I've showed, and you've all seen, I'm sure, the dipole electron flood theory, actual pictures, and I have not had one single question. I've been told I'm crazy, I'm wrong, the things I'm saying just don't make sense, and I should just be quiet and go sit in the woods somewhere. I have not had one single question, not a single question. And the things that I have presented are undeniable. And now all of a sudden I see it's starting to come around a little bit for guys like this, Fran. I can't talk. I'm blocked. I cannot speak in really literally any realm now. And they're doing this not just to me. Now, I'd like to see, as I left it with Fermilab, I said, by the time I'm done, I hope to see a congressional investigation into your behavior as to what you're doing, because all I see is looking for money. I'm not seeing they're looking for answers. Hold on one second. I'm just going to show you why I'm making these complaints, because this is the stuff I sent to them. This is no joke. Hold on a second. All right. This goes back to 2015, or even earlier than that, actually. I sent these pictures right here, which are photons, to Fermilab, which sees these same particles. This one's fixed. It doesn't get bigger. It doesn't get smaller. It has a glow around it, and it has a weight to it. This one is what they call a point particle. It has no weight to speak of, and I agree with that. But it's nothing but energy, and it gets bigger and it gets smaller, as you can see right below. There's bigger because it's going through the air this way, crashing into the particles in front of it, making it expand in energy. This one here is lower in energy because it's behind the black particle, which blocks it from hitting. And this is what it looks like. Now, I got these pictures. I showed you, well, I guess I didn't show you that, but these pictures here, that's wave-particle duality. There's the particle, and there's the wave it makes going through the air. Once it accelerates, then we can see the photon. But you can't see the photon until it accelerates. That's why CERN, none of them have ever been able to see this. Nobody has seen this until Rod Warren did these experiments using a Venturi, which is nothing more than a restriction. And here it is right here. There's the particle was back in here. And it doesn't show up at all. You can't see it at all back here. It's not even there. Nobody would ever know it was there if it wasn't starting to accelerate. And the only reason it accelerated because of the Venturi. And that's the particle manifesting itself, and when it hits the Venturi, it explodes. Exactly the same explosion they see at CERN and all the rest of them. However, this explosion is of the actual photon. They see explosions of complete particles. They're 1,000 times bigger than this. They explode into a whole bunch of garbage, and they have no idea what they're seeing. None, zero. We can see them, and here again, this is it. There's Fermilab, and here's the particles. And here they are accelerating, and here they are exploding. And here's what they say. This is not I'm not guessing at this. They say the muon is the black ball, which is here right there. They know it's there, but they don't know it's part of a photon. And there's the electron neutrino, which is a white, and that explodes into gigantic energy levels. Now, I was so upset with Fermilab that I decided, well, I'll go to University of Geneva for particle physics, and I'll interact with those professors. They're the ones they're right down the street from CERN. So I showed them all of this, and I got the same response as I did from Fermilab. No, you can't do this because these are high energy particles And what you're using is a cell phone. This is literally a cell phone. This is what we use to do these experiments. It's right there, a cell phone. This is from 2012. A Samsung Galaxy S3, 2012 that came out. And it created these layered pictures. You see this? This is a blue photon. And we'll talk about this in a minute. But I said, we're seeing these using CMOS. And they said, no, impossible. You destroy the CMOS, you're just lost in space. You don't know what you're doing. I said, no, I know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing. I said, what I am showing you is light. Light and CMOS were designed to work together. These are tiny, 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 tiny pixels. Every one of them picks up a tiny little bit of energy, and then it magnifies it and puts it all back together again and makes these pictures. So we could see them. But I was using light, so we weren't throwing hand grenades at the CMOS. They were throwing hand grenades. When they break up a photon, it's like this. They were shooting these head on. So here's what they think they have. They think they have that particle right there, which is a huge proton. To me, that's huge. And they come together and smash. Well, this is what it really is made out of. When these smash together, they go chunks like this. A chunk like that hits the CMOS, it's done. It's done. It's just too much. The electron volts are off the chart. But if this hits it, it shows it in its energetic value. Some of them are brilliant. Like right here. That shouldn't be white. That was red laser light from this laser, which is nothing more than a Bosch measuring laser. It's a red pulsed laser. And it's turned white because it's so energetic when it came through the Venturi. There's a lot to discuss about this, and it takes a while to do this, and most people aren't that deeply interested. Now, I've got it in spades here. We could show red light versus the green. The green is much more energetic. The red just gets pushed out of the way. The green reacts like crazy. And the blue is even crazier than that. Look at this. The blue comes through so hot that you can't tell there's even two particles there, a photon. All you see is one. But by the time it gets out here to the end, you see that there's actually two particles. That is slowing down. Einstein, as everybody knows, says light cannot slow down, and that's how they measure the distance of galaxies and light and stars in light years, because they say light in a year, this is exactly how far light goes, whatever it may be. It's a bazillion miles. And it goes the same speed every time. There's no difference whatsoever. It's just never going to change. Well, that's just nonsense, because what happens is they have a redshift. All right, by the time we get the light hitting us, it's shifted to red. And what does that mean? Well, it means here, hold on. All right. This is what light comes spinning like this. It might come out like this, blue. And then sometimes it's shifted to the green. Sometimes it slows way down till it's red, way like this. That's down here. You see the length? This is the blue up here. That's the green down there. And then you get down into radio waves and infrared and way down here where it's stretched out. They say it's stretching out because everything's been sucked away because of the Big Bang. That's just insanity. And they know now that the space is saturated with particles. You should see the research I'm doing, Fran, with cosmic calliope. Yikes. I was doing that today. I'm going to do a video on that. Unbelievable what this guy did. And he's got a Newtonian telescope. And he's getting these shots. It's layered shots showing the expansion of cosmic microwave radiation, all kinds of stuff. Fabulous. Some of the people I've been working with, they exceed any other experts in the world. It's just a fact. And I'm not bragging because I didn't do this. If Rod hadn't showed me this, I never in a million years would have been able to prove. But these are all my theories. This goes back to 1970, right after I got out of the Army. I was in nuclear missiles and stuff. And transfer of energy is from light to atomic vapor. And everything is dipoles. There's two types of intermolecular forces, dipoles. There's polar and nonpolar. And I can get into all this stuff deeply. but the transfer of energy is from light, or actually dipoles. I didn't know light was a dipole, double dipole at that point, but I knew it was a dipole. And I called it atomic vapor because it comes down and it heats things. It's the vapor coming off of the atoms. Wow, I just heard from Fran that Greg Morris has talked to him. Greg is one of the most fabulous researchers I've ever worked with. And I haven't heard from him in a long time. What were you guys talking about?
He hit me up on TikTok.
Oh, okay, so maybe he's jumped over there. He sent me some stuff that's just absolutely phenomenal. You know, you saw that.
He sent you the feather on the road.
The feather? He sent me also that big artery I showed.
The pipe.
It looked like a pipe, yes. It's about this big around.
Oh, I know it.
And it's just saturated with blood. And when I polished the surface of it, you could see every layer of the membrane identical to the anatomical layers. Absolutely, there's no question it's an artery. And what else? Oh man, he sent me a lot of stuff.
He's got a lot of books.
He's got books?
And he does a lot of books. He does his research. He does a lot of research.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Next time you click in with him, tell him I'm thinking about. Yeah, let him make sure he knows I'm thinking about, because I've tried contacting him several times. I think within the last year or two, and I didn't get any response. Sometimes you don't know what to think. Whether something happened to him, or
he's hanging out. He's cool. He's doing videos.
Yeah, good. That's very, very good information, my friend. Yeah, I get a lot of stuff from a lot of people, and because nobody will talk to him. That's the problem. Just like me, I can't present evidence. It's not just I'm just making some theory up. I'm showing evidence, and they won't even look at it. They won't talk to you about it. And I can't, for the life of me, believe that it's not about funding. It has to be about funding. If you solve questions and answers, and you have answers to questions, the funding is going to dry up. Although it shouldn't dry up, it should be expanded into other areas that make sense. You know, you keep looking for something and you refuse to accept it. You saw the stuff I have about asteroid Bennu, right?
Mm-hmm. You got hearts and fingers up in space, man.
Every one of them is a body part. I have a lung here, which is this one here. Have I shown you this one? That right there is a little tiny lung. That came through. Oops. That came through space. Oh, yeah. And it's magnetic because the blood is iron, and the iron cooks off, and the moisture cooks off, and you end up with iron. And every one of the asteroids, Bennu, Psyche, Oumuamua, and all of that stuff, they came back to Earth with the one from Bennu. You know this. From Bennu. And you can see it. There's no way to deny it. They're muscle sarcomeres. Hold on, I'm going to bring those pictures up. Hold on a second. All right, so I'm just complaining again. I'm always complaining. Well, if you don't complain, nothing ever happens. And if you don't ask questions, you just keep going down the same road, round and around in circles. They just went up to this asteroid, Bennu. That's the name of it. And this, I'm going to tell you right now, is a heart. And I can prove this. This is not a guess. They landed on here, and they blew off a whole bunch of stuff with nitrogen gases, and they went down, and they didn't realize it, and they went down, I think, like meters into it, and then they grabbed a chunk of it, pulled it out of there in a completely sterile thing, and they brought it back to Earth. Well, what did they find when they pulled that stuff off of there? Here's what they came back with. It's right here. This white layer is in a certain type of light which shows phosphates. Phosphates, phosphorus, they light up. It's showing it here. Well, here it is right here. there's a layer, and then there's this blocky stuff. They have no idea. And then there's another layer of this stuff. They have no idea. And then there's another layer of this stuff. They have no idea. It goes on and on and on. There's a ton of these. You see that? Those are cables in a heart muscle. All right, listen to me carefully. Those are cables. And those cables, when you cut them this way and you look at them and clean that off back, these are what they look like. And what is that called? A heart sarcomere. All right, you hear me? Look at this, and now look at this, which is a heart. These are the phosphate layers. These chunks are the sarcomeres. If all that red stuff eroded out of there, you'd see a bunch of little stripes in here. And basically that's pretty much what you're seeing in this one here. This still has some of the red stuff in it. Because they preserve in space, they preserve very well. And this, again, there's Bennu, there's a heart sarcomere. This is what they came back with. Now, I'm going to show you another one. This one's even better. This one is Psyche. Psyche's another heart. And the reason you're seeing down into the heart valves is because the plumbing pops right off. And this I'm very familiar with. I've worked with some of the best anatomists in the world. And this is a tube coming out of that heart. There's another tube down here coming out of that heart. These colors and these circles around are the actual molecular structure of blood. Red is the red blood, which is artery blood. Black is the vein blood. And yellow is in between. I think the yellow is mostly, I think the yellow is primarily lymph fluids. And anyway, hold on one second. All right, again, I work with some of the top anatomists in the world, and they understand fascia. I wrote the paper in 2015 about fascia-facilitated fossilization. Fascia coats everything, and that membrane I showed you is nothing more than those layers, those phosphate layers, those are membranes, and they separate layers of tissue. Now, the reason you're seeing Psyche here has no plumbing at the top, which is this. This is the plumbing. It pops right off. And they know this. This is not a mystery. They know that it breaks right across here. And the reason it does is because iron banding. There's black and red blood right next to each other. They're polar opposites. It pops right apart. When they open them up in the autopsies and stuff, we're primarily research after they've been sitting for a while, because that's when the blood pops itself. There's no plumbing on the top. They just pop right apart. And that's what you're seeing here. Now, this again is Psyche. This is not Bennu, but it's the same thing. It's a heart. This is the membrane that holds the muscle. Boom, 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 boom. It's got to do that for every day, all day long, for your entire life. And this right here, my friends, is where it breaks off. I don't know if you can see that. You see up there? You see the different colors? That's where it breaks off. The plumbing just goes off. And in this case, into space. Now, I don't know how anybody could deny this. It's not deniable. But never one single question. And I tried to engage with all these people. I've been blocked. I'm blocked from all of them. I can't speak. I'm just like somebody out in the woods screaming and nobody can hear. This is from my collection of mud fossils. This is muscle. That is muscle. And that red blood up there feeds that muscle. That's why this is pink. This right here is a tendon. You see, it's brown. It doesn't need muscle. I mean, it doesn't need blood. A tendon's just a little stretchy piece of rubber. And down here is the bone, which connects to the tendon, which connects to the muscle. And these are my mud fossils. And I discovered this layer of interstitium, and now they accept it as a true organ in 2018. They said, yeah, it's there. And they still don't understand what it does. And nobody will talk to me about it. They won't talk to me about the light, about the mud fossils, about our history, about enzymes and bacteria that's in the body. It's completely off the table with academia, because as soon as they engage, they're going to be seen for what they are. And the last words I had with Fermilab about this, I said, I have found your particles. And this was a thing I did way back then. This is it right here. Light is dark energy while traveling from the sun to Earth. Light saturates the universe. It saturates it. And every time one light particle bumps into another one, it slows down. That's the redshift. Redshift doesn't happen because everything's being pulled away. The only reason you would believe that is you believe Einstein. He just wasn't right. Just totally not right. All right, I have just shown you the things that are in space. The things that are in space are giant creatures. Oumuamua is a giant finger. There's no question. I showed this to one of the top anatomists in the world. He says, that's a finger, case closed. So I'm going to jump back here with Fran, and we're going to start talking about something else. All of this stuff, there's nothing that sits by itself. These things they have to be from the battles in the heavens. I showed you this right here. That is 140 miles across. Think of the size of the creature that had that heart in its body. 140 miles. Nobody has ever expected this. I certainly didn't. But if you keep digging and you keep asking questions, that's when you get the answers. And we got some answers, I think. And but it does relate to something about eternity, about the gods, God, a universal life. We're not just a bunch of dirt and rocks and things, but the rocks come from, even Jesus Christ said, if you tell my people to be quiet, the rocks will cry out. And boy, I'll tell you, that's a statement I cannot refuse. And Jesus Christ said, well, let me just show you something. Because the things that they're not taking into account is the Gnostic text, which they tried to suppress. They tried to crush them and burn every one of them existed. However, they did find some in 1945, and it changed everything. Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi text made a huge difference if you accept them. Let's see what they had to say. All right, like I said, you're not going to hear anything about religion. Oh, our guy's religious. Well, who cares? Jesus, who I guess was religious, said, whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass. No question about it. And whoever has discovered a carcass, of that person, the world is not worthy. In other words, if you can accept what you see, you're way ahead of the rest of the world. And here's number 80. These are profound statements. Jesus said, whoever has come to know the world has discovered the body. And whoever has discovered the body, of that one the world is not worthy. Same thing. You have to search, first of all. This is from the Nag Hammadi text, and it's the Gospel of Thomas. That was doubting Thomas. All right, he was Jesus' scribe. And this is the secret sayings that the living flesh Jesus spoke and did them as Thomas recorded. When he was here walking around on the earth, he was in his vest of flesh. When he left earth and went back to heaven, he went back to pick up his light vesture. We are literally made of light. That's the dipole electron theory. And you want to be in the white part of the light. You don't want to be in the black part. So he went to go get his light vesture. He came back to earth And then he told them a whole bunch of stuff which he never told them in the first time he was here, because he didn't want to. First of all, they had a hard time believing anything he said anyway. But he had so much evidence. He was showing miracles. He was showing miracles. He was healing the blind, doing all kinds of things, making fish for thousands of people, wine, anything. He could do anything. They can contribute. They can manipulate the dipoles that make up everything there is. And enzymes do that same thing. Enzymes do more chemistry in 1 second than would happen if it wasn't for the enzyme. It would take sometimes millions of years to do that same chemistry that happens in 1 second. And not only that, that enzyme doesn't get used up. It goes and bangs another one, another one, another one. So anyway, he says, this is Jesus talking. He said, whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. Let's think about that for 1 second. I don't know anybody that's not going to die. Everything comes and goes. So are you going to taste death? What does that mean? That means you're going to go on to something else. And some people, I guess they're going to taste death because they don't understand. And the ones that don't understand have not seeked. Those who seek, and if you don't seek, you're done. Those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed, yes. When they are disturbed, they will marvel, yes. And it will reign over all. I don't know about that, but I'll accept it. And after they have reigned, they will rest. Reigning, I don't know what that actually means. In other words, you could look down on everybody and say, no, you guys are making a mistake here. Is that reigning, or is telling them what to do reigning? I think saying, I have truth here would be reigning over all. So anyways, as Jesus said, if your leaders say to you, look, the Father, his kingdom is in the sky, the birds will precede you because they're already in the sky. If they say to you it's in the sea, the fish will be ahead of you because they're already in the sea. Rather, the Father's kingdom is within you, and it is outside of you. It's everything. And it's not a big expansion of dust or whatever, a big bang. That has absolutely no sense whatsoever. However, I can't justify a living biological universe either. But it says, when you know yourselves, then you will be known. You will understand. When you know yourselves, you will be known. Known by who? By God. And you will understand that you are children of the living Father. We are children of the living God. If you do not know yourselves, then you live in poverty. You are the poverty. You don't even understand. You're just wasting your time. And then it goes on to say, know what is in front of your face, and what's hidden from you will be disclosed to you. There is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing buried that will not be raised. All of this stuff rings so true to me. And if you can't see it, I don't know how you're missing it. And he said, we are children of the light. And I say everything there is made of those two dipole particles. And here is what Jesus says. Jesus said to his disciples, if they say to you, where have you come from? Say to them, we have come from the light. It doesn't get any more explicit than that. From the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself. You didn't have to burn anything. You didn't have to smash anything. You didn't have to explode anything. It just happened by itself. And it appeared in their image, the image of the gods. So we must be made in their image. That's what it does say somewhere. If they say to you, is it you? Say, we are its children, and we are the children of the light. And we are the chosen. This is big. Don't miss this one. This is huge. This is the biggest thing of all. If they say to you, is it you? In other words, the light. Say, we are its children, and we are the chosen. We are the particles. For some reason that God said, make that into a living creature. Otherwise, they're just particles floating around in space, banging into each other. And there's all kinds of animals. they're not humans, but boy, I'll tell you, they have life in them. There's no question about that. Where that life came from and what its reason is, I'm starting to think that everything was developed to assist humanity, and humanity has missed it so entirely that we just think it's all about us. And everything that God made was to help us and give us a garden and give us a place to live, a place that he could enjoy seeing his children. And now he's upset, very big time, and I think he wants to just end it all. As somewhere in the text say, I regret what I did. I made a mistake. If that's God's words, yikes. Anyway, they say we are his children. We are the chosen light from the living Father. If they ask you, what is the evidence of your Father in you? Say to them, it is motion and rest. Everybody knows things can sit down and do nothing, and things can bash into other and explode them and do all kinds of things. His disciples said to him, when will the rest for the dead take place? And when will new world come? He said to them, what you are looking forward to has come already, but you don't know it. The book of Revelation already happened. It's time to really reconsider everything and put the things on the table. Don't say you can't talk about this, because that goes into the religious realm. Just nonsense. They're crazy people. No. It's time to say, what's your evidence? Show me the evidence. Show me their evidence. They don't have any evidence. You know what I mean, Fran? It's just...
I'm just thinking, you mentioned the Bible. I agree with you. I believe Revelation already happened. However, what if we're at the end of Revelation and where the millennial reign of Christ either took place and now we're in Satan's short season? You know what I'm talking about?
Not 100%, but
because he gets out. He gets locked away and then he gets out. Christ has a 1,000-year millennial reign,
yeah,
where Satan's locked up, and then Satan's let go for a short season.
Where did that text come from?
In that short season, because the Dark Ages could have been the millennial reign of Christ. Those Dark Ages, they're building cathedrals and all those amazing things.
No, where does that text come from?
That's in Revelation.
All right.
I can show you. I think it's Revelation. It might be Revelation 16. Hold on.
I've heard that before about the 1,000-year reign. My problem is that the Bible has been manipulated.
Yes, I agree with you.
All right. The things that I don't think were manipulated were the Gnostic texts. Those were buried. These were just found. They were buried when Christ was walking around breathing. And they wanted to suppress all of that. They didn't want anybody to know the truth. Why? I'm still up in the air. Satan wants to control society, or wants to control humanity, or wants... This is still... You know what I'm saying? There's a lot to think about here. But if you follow, which I did, Apollodorus and Hesiod and their statements, you have to assume that Christ came here to save us from the bad guys, whoever they were. And apparently Zeus was considered God. And that opens up a whole nother can of fish, because he gave birth to Venus, and that's pretty well established in my book. Nobody, and I don't care who they are, can convince me that that didn't happen. It is a literal vagina on Jupiter, and Venus was born from that. All the texts say that. And Velikovsky recorded also, all the ancient texts had the same story. And it smashed into Earth and wiped out the giants. And Did Zeus send it for that reason? Send Venus for that reason? I would have to suspect that he did.
That's where it gets crazy, because Zeus sent the flood. You know, he told Deucalion.
Right. Well, the flood, that's what caused the flood, was the impact of Venus's magnetic field, basically, into our magnetic field, pushing everything. And it must have been just a horrendous sloshing of everything. And it created all that deep silicates, the ooze, the siliceous ooze, that came up and petrified all the mud fossils. That's what caused it, was the siliceous ooze. Now, Zeus gave birth to Venus. Venus, as far as I'm concerned, was the destroyer of the giants, and he was also the killer of Mars, who was the god of war. It actually hit Mars, created the Mars-Valerianus Trench. It's wider than the whole United States, and it's deep, and it ripped everything off. You can see the magnetic fields discharged into Venus from Mars. It has no magnetic field, it has no moisture, it has no atmosphere anymore. So it sucked up everything that Mars had to make itself a living thing. It took it all away, ripped it off. So it's never going to be viable again unless they can have a whole bunch of plant material there growing, because that will create the properties of gases and so forth, and that creates energy, and then that creates the magnetic field, and then all that stuff goes on from there. But you got to start with all those plants, and they're gone. There's nothing growing up there that I can find. So it appears that Venus, coming from Jupiter, wiped out the gods. Wiped out the giants and all the dragons and all that stuff, as far as I can see. And there's dragons, there's no question. They're all over the place. And then it went out and did the Mars deal and wiped that off. Was there things written to try to make that hard to understand? Likely. But the evidence is there. To me, I don't know. What do you think?
I just go with, the founders of Rome are Romulus and Remus, the god of war, his two twin sons. And at the end of the day, they're responsible for killing Christ. The Romans, whether you say it was the Jews or the Romans nailed him to a cross. Romulus and Remus got their revenge for their father.
Yeah. Boy,
that's my thought.
Well, I cannot discount anything anymore. There's so much research to be done, and you and I are doing a lot of it that has never been done before. They just say, that's all crazy stuff. You people are idiots. And if you don't look into something, it's just like Christ said. He said, you got to seek. You don't seek, you're done. And they are. These people are done. I can see. I can literally see in my mind their destruction and how they're not going to be welcomed. That's all I can come with. I don't know what's going to happen to them. I don't know where they're going to end up. But boy, there's a lot of Tartarus and hell and the dark regions and the deepest, darkest, screaming places on the boiling sea of fire. And that does not sound like a place I want to visit. And
real.
It's not. It's so hard to wrap my mind around this. I'm trying hard, man, and I know you are. You're trying harder than me, probably, but I'm trying.
You're trying harder than me.
Well, that's who knows? We're working on it together, and that's the key. Just to dismiss. I've been blocked, literally blocked, from every venue. Everywhere, and I'm contacting them right now. I'm sending out emails to University of Missouri. Hold on 1 second. I'll just bring this up real quick. Hold on. All right, I want to show you this. I'll have to show you this later. I just got this from my buddy Cosmic Calliope Mason, and he's saying coronal mass ejection. He's using stacked focal lengths. What that means is he's taking picture, and then he's laying them out and getting the data and looking at them in stacked formations. Now watch this. This is my friend Mason, and I have sent this to all of these people, University of Missouri, all these different people. And I just said, just before you contacted me, now look at this. This is how deep they go. Well, Mason, I'm just hanging on to these guys because they're the ones that got this. He's got a Newtonian telescope. It's a reflective Newtonian telescope that he's doing unbelievable work. This is the sun. When they make these telescopes, they put in filters that remove some of what they consider to be contamination. We don't see it as contamination. We see it as raw data. There's the sun. Here's the next shot. So now this is a focal, and then the next one is as it starts to impact and blow off this coronal ejection. Here's what's happening right here now. All right, you see that? And here's all these little black dipoles. That's got something that interests me. And they're surrounding the white. Now, why is that ejecting? And what does the ejection look like as it continues? Watch this. Here it is here. We're still on the sun. And it's still coming out. And these are stacked. Boom, 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 boom. As that stuff is heading towards me. What's the next one? Here it is here. Now he's stepped off from the sun. And down here you see the coronal mass ejection right there. You see all those little black dots and little white dots. Those are not just nothing. And you see all these little layerings? All those, that's this stepped off layering. So here's the coronal mass ejection coming out. Nobody's ever seen this before. And then it turns into these huge dipoles. Look at this. This is my dipole electron flood theory. And now he's showing all of these coronal aurora, basically, the magnetic fields. You see the white and the black? That's the dipole right there, giving off these two enormous fields. And they all have dipoles. There's another one over here. And it depends on the direction the sun is moving and filtering through the galaxy, how much impact it has. But it's obviously shooting all that stuff this way, to me. Now, Mason might have a better handle on this than me, but this is the way I see it. And I don't get to talk to him much because he's up all night. What he does is in the nighttime. So during the day, he's just not up and around. Now, that was this one. Now, I sent this to the University of Missouri, and they are the ones that are making all these claims about coronal mass ejections and about all kinds of things. And where is it? Let's see. I just showed you that one. I got a lot of pictures from Mason. Let me see here. Here's another one from Mason right here. All right.
I'm trying to understand though, what are they coating the lenses with that he's removing to take these pictures?
I believe they're thin film transition metals. That's what I think. And those transition metals absorb frequencies. So when they see all of these little tiny dots and things, you can't see this, but all these little dots and things, they think that's just interference. So they put something in there to reduce and remove these frequencies that Mason has re-engineered it to pick up on those frequencies. Look at this. This is the sun. All of those little dots. You see how they look like they're in little rows and stuff? That's because of pixelation. This is extremely pixelated. But he's removed all the stuff that they put in there to remove this stuff. So we're seeing the thing much more accurately than they're seeing it. And we're seeing all these fields build up, stacked, as they filter out into space. This is serious stuff. All these little tiny particles, they're everywhere in space. Everything's slowing down as it comes through space. So anyway, that's that. But it's crazy, man.
That one picture, in my mind, I just think about the picture of Saturn. I don't see the pictures you're looking at right now, but the one picture that rings to me is the picture of Saturn in the middle.
Oh, yeah. That was, I got that. Hold on, I'll show it real quick. All right, I'm glad that Fran mentioned this, because this right here is Saturn. Look at that. That's the rings of Saturn. It's a gigantic dipole, just as they all are. There is nothing but dipoles. It's all that exists. And here's one side of it, and here's the other, and there's that little bugger floating in the middle. The stuff he is getting is just incredible. Now, as I said, and Fran mentioned, he is removing the filters so we can actually see things that are real, not filtered. All right, the things that we're seeing are real. Now, let me come back to that just a second here. Hold on. All right, I'm just going to pop right to a bunch of pictures Mason sent me. This is unfiltered. This is unfiltered. This is the real stuff. Now they're talking about, and I did this video. You know the crazy thing is, you see all these little red dots? Wow, this is just sinking in. Hold on a second. Wait till you see this. All right, I just showed you the unfiltered version. Just today, NASA says NASA's Webb telescope discovers 300 mysterious objects that shouldn't exist. Here's their artist conception of what they're seeing. And here's what they're actually seeing. Look, they're showing all these little dots, are these little red dots. And that one right there looks like what I was just showing you, Saturn. And they're seeing all of these little red dots out here in space. They can't account for them. They say there's no way we can account for this. And Mason is showing them just because they're everywhere. I think I showed you, I sent all my stuff to the University of Missouri. They're the ones that are claiming this stuff today, that they found all of these little red dots out in space they can't account for. The research team began their work with two of this Webb's advanced infrared telescopes, or instruments, the near-infrared camera and mid-infrared instruments. Tools are built to capture light from the most distant regions of space. They don't know how far things are. Space is not homogeneous, and it is saturated with particles. So some places are dense, some places are small. That means some are going to slow down faster than the others. At this point, they're totally clueless. And the James Webb telescope detected 300 objects shining more brightly than expected. That's because they don't have any idea what they're doing. And guess what the Webb telescope is based on? The fact that light never slows down. All right, they're just starting from totally the wrong beginning. This is that Webb telescope. We can see now to the early parts of the universe. We know when it first started. We can tell because of the red shift. They say the universe is pulling the light so it goes to the red. That's not true. The light's slowing down. I asked, is the Webb telescope based on space as a vacuum? Yes. James Webb telescope images are fundamentally, that means completely, fundamental means everything established after that is built and based on the physics of light traveling through the vacuum of space. The vacuum is not a limitation. It is, in fact, an essential condition for the telescope's work. There's no vacuum out there. And they know this. And day after day, we just figured out, we know more. They know more. They want more funding. That's what's going on here. I just showed you. These are these little red dots. They can't figure out how come they're so bright. Mason can see them. I can see them. You can see them. And this is not a vacuum. This is nobody with a scintilla of intelligence that sees that as a vacuum. And all of our top physicists in the world agree, oh, yeah, it's a vacuum, no problem. That explains everything. They only want to do an explanation of what they think, and the rest does not matter. Doesn't matter at all. And I told them at Fermilab, the last words I had with them before they blocked me completely from the world was that I hope to see a congressional investigation as to your response to my evidence, not my claims of just nothing. This is evidence. And this is exactly what they were showing. Right there from Fermilab. And there they are, only we use 1,000 times smaller particles, so we didn't destroy the CMOS. And that was the first thing. You're going to destroy it. No, you're just a crazy guy. And he, literally, he called me a disgrace to science and a tinfoil hat guy. And that was their top researcher, or I don't know what he is. He's just a loudmouth, Don Lincoln, at Fermilab. And this goes back to 2012. And it was probably 2013, 2014, somewhere around it. I went to University of Geneva in 2015. So I had been fighting with him for a couple of years before this. And I kept sending more and more stuff. And he just, after I sent him a couple of things, he just never responded. And nobody would. So that's when I went and took a course at the University of Geneva. And they did respond. And by the time I was done, they upgraded CERN to take into account my research. You're never going to hear that from them, but here's the truth of it. All right, so don't forget, I told them you can use CMOS. Oh, no, and everybody fought me, and then they just dropped me off the page. Well, guess what? In 2019, CMOS detector and system developments for the Large Hadron Collider detector upgrades to use CMOS. Here's the abstract. The CERN Large Hadron Collider will undergo a major upgrade to increase its instantaneous luminosity, allowing precision measurements of known processes and the search for new physics. Because of what I told them. You tell me something different. Tell me why they did this. Why would they do that? They said you can't do it. I showed them there was absolutely 100% certain you could do it, and now they are doing it. And it took, I think, 2023 or 2022, they came back online, and now it's much better now. Well, of course. But what they had to do was harden the CMOS. What does that mean? The pixels are just sitting here flat like this, and the light is banging into them. You take this and you hit it with something like that, it smashes and destroys it. So what do you have to do? You have to put filters in. Filter. So all it's going to get down to the bottom is literally the particles of light, which we can see because we started with light. We don't have to do this. They want to get down to the smallest particles that exist. They've already done it. They just didn't know. What they're doing now is just nonsense. It's a waste, a huge, enormous waste. And they're talking about Trump going after science. He wants some answers. I don't blame him. I don't agree with everything anybody says. But there are some things I agree with so desperately that I want them seen and I want them dealt with. And I want Trump to stand up and take them to a congressional investigation as to why they wouldn't talk to me. We're spending billions of dollars a year, many billions, to support these people that won't deal with reality. I want to see Trump step up and put this in front of a congressional investigation. You don't get anywhere until you start asking questions and demand answers. All right, I just been rolling around this with Fran here for a minute, and my statement is that I can't find anything that's not biological, not a single thing. And the biology starts with the dipole electrons. They form into light, which is the smallest stable particle, Heat is just the single dipole. Light is the two of them back to back. And that makes a basically stable particle of light. And then you get into molecules, which is big, thousands of times bigger. Now we're looking out into space, and just as he said, everything in space is biological, but we both agree on this. You'd agree with that, right?
Yes.
I can't find anything that isn't. If somebody could show me something, show it to me. I'd love to see it. So when we see these pictures that are like that space angel, that I can't explain unless it is some kind of biology of, it needs a lot deeper look. And then you have the eye of God, which he was just mentioning. It looks, you cannot tell that from an eyeball. It's just, there's no way to tell it from an eyeball. It's what I see. You see the same thing, right?
Seeing the same thing.
Hold on, let me get it. Okay, so Fran brought up the eye of the universe, and there appears to be maybe more than one, but this is a literal eyeball. Now this is the eye of the universe. I don't see a lot of difference there. Now, we're going to wrap this up. I know it's been going on forever. People don't have a big attention span, but I just want to thank Fran for all the help he's put into this. He's got a TikTok. It's called Dragon Earther.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, Dragon Earther is Fran, and he's
dedicated to you.
Say it again.
It's all dedicated to you.
I do know that, and he's been posting my videos up there. I don't really do TikTok. I mean, I do have a TikTok account, but I got so many things going on, and as a matter of fact, I haven't always been answering some of the emails and some of the comments, which I like to do, but this time is prohibitive, and my time is not going to last forever. I can feel. I know where I'm headed, man, and we're all headed to the same place. Well, I appreciate you helping. I just want it to be known. If nobody knows this stuff, if it's not allowed to be known, what does that say? That's just not, and these are the people that are teaching your kids. These are the people that, I was looking up Dartmouth on Jeopardy last night, or whenever, a couple days ago. They said, Dartmouth has an acceptance rate of 2.6%. They only accept 2.6% of the people that are begging to get in there. I looked up what Dartmouth does. They don't do anything that I can tell. I have no idea what they do that's so important. There's nothing. You look it up. What do they do? Nothing.
A club. It's just a club.
Yeah, and you can say, I went to Yale, I went to Harvard, I went to... When you tell me that, I say, what a freaking idiot you are.
Yep.
PhD means perfectly happy deluded. It doesn't mean any big thing. You just you repeat what you're told to say. And even in Yale, you go look up, and I took all the... Well, I didn't take them all. I just went to find out how silly they were. The first thing out of Professor Shankar's mouth was, I'm going to talk about quantum mechanics. That's all we're going to do for the whole semester. But don't worry, nobody can understand it. And in a week, you'll never be understand it. I don't understand it at all. In a week, you won't be. But you go back and tell everybody what I say, and then they'll think you're smart. I'm not kidding you. That's the words right out of his mouth. And that's Yale University. He won't correspond either. Nobody will. Not a single one of them. I sent my stuff to MIT, to Harvard, Yale. I mean, this is nobody I haven't contacted. And I was either assaulted or I was just dismissed. So anyway, I guess we've got to wrap this up, buddy. But once again, you are a very, very big help in this whole big picture.
Thank you for opening my eyes.
Well, we just got to keep looking and thinking. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up right now. Fran, thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Roger. Have a great day.
And you too, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roger.